Alright guys, let's get into this. We're going to be starting a XCOM meets Halo playthrough. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to call it yet, but we're going to start a campaign. So I've gone through, played with the mods, gotten my character pool and barracks the way that I want to do it, and built some squads. So the first thing we're going to do is go through and meet everybody and hear some lore about each of those people and why they're assigned to, whatever specific team. So let's do... So I originally saw this mod because I played the first XCOM quite a bit, and didn't really get XCOM 2. And then when I saw this, that you could do like Halo mods and stuff like that for it, I kind of just set it in stone that I wanted to eventually do this, especially knowing that the channel is more so like Halo based.
When you're tired or hungry or just need a treat, Advent Burger, the place for meat.
Okay. Alright, so we will go to squad management. Alright. So these are the squads that we're gonna have, okay?
Most of our new recruits have never worked in
I will go through and kind of cover each person in the squad, but the first one's gonna be a 4-man squad consisting of black team, gray team, red team has quite a few people, so quite a few people are listed as red team in the Halo lore. We have blue team. A lot of people assume that blue team is just, the people that you see in Halo 5 and things like that. No, blue team is actually larger than that, and Spartans oftentimes got switched out in and out of blue and red for, whatever mission based on their specialties. Green team is a lot of those miscellaneous Spartans that are named, but don't really show. Like, they don't show, like, you don't see Kichi. Cal is shown in the Babysitter episode of Halo Legends. Naomi's in the books. A lot of these Spartans are in the books and stuff like that, but you don't hear about them on any sort of mainstream type thing. And then finally we have Silver Team. Silver Team is the Spartans that we just recently met in the Halo live action show that was just released. So, I mean, some people consider these canon Spartans, some people don't, but I just went ahead and threw them in there. Now, there was some more specific armors and stuff that I could have done for some of the people, but I just didn't. A lot of them are just put at their base Mark IV based on what armor they would have been wearing whenever they were killed, or marked as missing in action. So we will get into that. So let's go ahead and just do the rundown. So Solomon is another person that we see in the package. He's a member of Blue Team. He's introduced in the package on Halo Legends wherever Blue Team is trying to save Halsey from the Covenant cruiser. He's actually the one that sets off the trap and blows up with the carrier. So that's where we meet Solomon. Kai is the sniper of Silver Team. We see her in the Halo live action show, like I mentioned, so that's still pretty relatively close. Now, I didn't know what to do for the secondary color, so I put it kind of as like a silver, but I didn't want it to look too much like Gray Team's colors. So that's what Silver Team's colors are going to look like just for the sake of this playthrough. I could have gone lighter, but a lot of the lighter ones looked white. Margaret is known as Black One. So Black Team isn't talked about in any of the books. They're all their stuff is through comics. So if you were interested in Black Team or their lore, they're a 4-man Spartan 2 team that was integrated into Oni and worked directly with Oni, and were sent on missions by Oni. And so this is Black One, the leader of Black Team. Then we have Isaac. Isaac is one of the Spartans that that was defending the orbital generators for the MAC guns during the Fall of Reach. If you've ever read the book First Strike, this is where Isaac is talked about. He actually ends up getting killed when he was attempting to throw, C4 at a pursuing Covenant, army, and blast packs or whatever explosive it may have been, but it prematurely detonated, killing him and Vin. So then we have Jai. Jai is said to be the leader of Grey Team. The 2 books that we see Grey Team in are going to be Halo: The Cole Protocol, which is actually one of the first few books in the Halo series, if you go chronologically based on the timeline. So it would actually go Contact Harvest and then the Cole Protocol, and then we would get into the Fall of Reach and all these other things where it starts talking about the introduction of the Spartan program. But yeah, so the Cole Protocol is where we see Grey Team, and it talks a lot about Grey Team and Keys and kind of how they intertwine in the universe. Michael is another member of Grey Team. So Jai and Adriana were a lot closer during Spartan training and often would try and escape from Halsey and the trainers, trying to go back to their families or just get off the planet or whatever. And basically they had this another troubled child that they didn't know what to do with, so they kind of threw Michael over there with Jai and Adriana, and they clicked very well, and then they started formulating escape plans to where the 3 of them would try to escape, and they almost succeeded in escaping because at the age of 6, Michael was able to fly a Pelican and borderline escape. Adriana is the final member of Grey Team. Like I said, Adriana and Jai are relatively close. For the sake of this, it doesn't necessarily say Adriana's specialties and stuff like that, but I wanted her to be more of a close range kind of individual, so that's kind of what I went for. And I'm going to change this actually. So I want Michael's secondary to be, I can't do a spark. I guess that's only for soldiers, so I'll leave it. But he was more of the technological guy of Grey Team, always fixing up the ships and stuff like that. So if I would have done a spark to where he could hack things, I probably would have gone down that route, but I can't. Adriana, I gave her an energy sword, so it's not as seen, because if you equip them with the sword, it's kind of shown across their back, and it doesn't really blend with the look that I want to go with. So right now she just has a shotgun, and then you can see in her right hand she has the hilt of the energy sword. Alright, Jerome is someone that we see in the Halo Wars series. So the Halo Wars games, this is where we see Jerome. Jerome is actually the leader of Red Team. He's also the one with the shotgun in the Halo Wars 1 cutscene on the bridge where the Spartans are fighting the elites and Forge is fighting the Arbiter. He's the one with the shotgun, and then also in Halo Wars 2, he's the one that fights the brutes on the bridge as Isabella controls the Sentinels, kind of making them react to destroy the ship that they were on. I do need to change his legs. He doesn't have the right legs on, so we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Body, we'll go down to legs. There we go. Alright, now we have Douglas. So Douglas here is another one of the Red Team members. He's the one in the cutscene with Atriox that actually gets hit in the chest with Atriox's hammer and gets dragged away. And Jerome is screaming, "Douglas, stay with me." That's Douglas. He's also one of the Spartans that you see in Halo Wars 1 cutscene on the bridge, fighting alongside Alice on the bridge. So just another pivotal member of Red Team. This is actually my favorite Spartan in the Halo universe. I've always wanted to get his tag, but I've never been able to. But I would say second to that would be Otto, and I currently am the owner of the Otto tag, at least in, not the best format you could get, but one of the better ones. And then we have Alice. So Alice I decided to equip with a chain gun, because a majority of the time that you see her in the Halo cinematics, she's always running around with a chain gun. So I decided to give her a chain gun, and I also gave her a grenade launcher as secondary for explosives and stuff like that. But like I said, Alice is the third member. red team that is seen throughout the Halo Wars games, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Then we have John. Everyone knows about John. He's the luckiest Spartan of all the Spartans. So he's not the best Spartan by any means. He's not the bravest, anything like that. He's just the luckiest, and he's the one that Cortana chose to, because Dr. Halsey was always very intrigued with John, and so Cortana is a direct flash-cloned brain of Halsey, and so her infatuation with John was the same. So in the books, Cortana actually has her pick of the Spartans on which one she wants to partner with, and she chooses John. So she wasn't assigned to him or anything like that. She chose John. And then we have Fred. So Fred is actually the second best marksman in the UNSC and also the best scout in the UNSC. This is his Centurion armor that you see introduced in Halo 5 whenever we actually get to see Chief work with the rest of Blue Team that's still alive. So we went ahead and used that cannon armor that we can see. I do want to get rid of this arm. That should be none. There we go. Go ahead and move on. Also, you can see a knife. It's kind of hidden, but Fred was actually the most skilled blade wielder in all of the Spartan 2s. And then he was pretty close to the top in a majority of things, but he's also the best tracker in the UNSC after Fahad became a cripple after augmentations. And then we have Kelly. Kelly's the fastest of the Spartan 2s. She's got a minor defect on her armor as well. Let's go ahead and change that. You can see it sticking through the legs. That's not supposed to be there. So go ahead and put none. Oh, I guess it is going to be there. I wonder if they have Kelly legs. Let's go look. Blank legs. Alright, I guess that's just what it looks like. But yeah, Kelly is the fastest of the Spartan 2s. She's also got the quickest reaction time of any Spartan 2. She uses Zen and meditation and things like that and reaction trainers. And she takes pride in her speed and things like that, and oftentimes in the books you see it utilized and things like that. So in Halo 5 you see her with the shotgun. So I went ahead and allowed her to have that. And then we have Linda. Linda is the best shot in the UNSC. She's the best sniper in all of the UNSC. She's much more proficient working alone. A majority of Spartans, and honestly all sniper teams in the UNSC, were sent out in pairs of 2, one being the sniper, one being the spotter. Linda was able to do everything on her own, and she decided that she wanted to work on her own, and that's when she did her best work. She has the ability to kind of go into a completely zen state and clear her mind to make like unbelievable shots. And the book First Strike, it's either at the end of I think it's at the end of the book First Strike. It talks about her hanging upside down from the ceiling with a rope tied around her ankle and shooting elites out of Banshees through the slits in the cockpit and just killing them as they were pursuing John. And then we have Kurt. So Kurt is actually the one who trained the next generation of Spartan 3s. I had the opportunity, and I can put him in the SBI armor. I don't think I'm going to do that just because I don't have any of the other 3s in my character pool. Because I could have put in Tom, Lucy, Mark, Ash, and like all the ferrets and stuff like that, and the named 3s that are still alive. I could have put them in here, and then I probably would have stuck them on a team together and put him in SPI because he is the one that trained the Spartan 3s, but he's actually a Spartan 2. Oni Section 3 basically created a fake mission to where they could abduct Kurt, and it was all planned, and Ackerson did this so that he could build Spartan 3s not only because of his vendetta with Halsey and all that stuff, but he wanted to build Spartan 3s to trade lives for time. So Spartan 3s were typically sent on suicide missions that were high value targets that very few survivors came back from, but they were able to, cause detrimental damage to the Covenant efforts in the war. But yeah, so Kurt is the one that trained them. He's also in the books when he was in training with the other Spartans. He was the leader of Green Team and often outwitted John and the rest of Blue Team in their training exercises. So he also has a very unique personality trait that he can read people very well, and he always gets this weird feeling about traps. And so another thing in the book First Strike, that's the first time that Kurt is introduced as far as working with Blue Team, because he does work with Blue Team before he's abducted to go to the Threes. He gets a funny feeling and all that stuff and ends up avoiding being caught in this trap and saving Blue Team from it. But yeah, Kurt is he's got a lot of lore on him. He's very, very interesting character. They did a lot of character development with him, and he actually ends up sacrificing himself by detonating a Havoc nuclear mine to and that Havoc nuclear warhead to destroy a Covenant army that was pursuing the rest of Blue Team and the Spartan Threes into a portal that actually ended up teleporting the rest of the people that went through the portal into the inner part of Onyx. So then we have Samuel. So Samuel is the first person to go MIA, or the first Spartan killed, which we see in the Halo animated series, or movie, Halo animated movie. But it's also, the story remains pretty consistent with what you read in the books. This is John's best friend, and he's also the first Spartan to die. But yeah, Samuel's John's best friend, and that's pretty much what it boils down to. Oh, he's also the strongest of the Spartan 2s, like physically, like he could lift more weight and stuff like that. Then we have William. So William was kind of like a jack of all trades. He was good at a majority of things. So, and it's also talked about that his personality became darker whenever they were in training and stuff like that. He was very happy-go-lucky, always being the jokester, stuff like that. And as the war went on and he saw more horrific things, his personality became cold. But yeah, he's a jack of all trades, and a lot about William is exposed in the book First Strike. I believe he's mentioned in the Flood, parts of it, and then also Glasslands, at the beginning of Glasslands, like you hear a little bit about him. But he actually ends up sacrificing himself to save Kelly from getting killed by a hunter, and he actually takes on 2 hunters in hand-to-hand combat by himself. So pretty badass Spartan. And then we have August. So a lot of people don't know like Omega Team, okay? So there's still 3 people from Omega Team that are not named, and this comes namely from Halo Wars 1. There's a mission in Halo Wars 1 where Red Team is fleeing Arcadia City with civilians and stuff like that, and they have to kind of build up and stuff like that. Well, another squad called Omega, Spartan Team Omega, gets dropped in to help them. They're all Spartan 2s that were on Arcadia, right? So August is one of the named Spartans from Omega Team. Now, after Halo Wars 1 and the events, the Spirit of Fire, Leave the Ring, all that stuff, Omega Team is still on the Spirit of Fire, and they are still active, and you can actually use them as heroes and stuff like that in Halo Wars 2, so you get to see more of their customized armor and kind of what weapons they wield and stuff like that. But there still is 3 unnamed Spartans that belong to Omega Team that we don't know their name yet. But August is one of the 6 that actually was a part of Omega Team and is now currently with Red Team. So we have Roma. Roma is Black 2. She's on Black Team. Like I said earlier, involved in the Oni missions and stuff like that. She's Black 2. I mean, she's pretty basic. I mean, there's more lore to her and stuff like that if you read the books. I mean, there's all kind of encounters and stuff like that with her saving Otto by carrying him on her back after after he broke his ankle and all kinds of other stuff. So there's more lore on her, but she's known as Black 2. Then we have Leon. So Leon is actually another member of Omega Team. So he's the second of the 3 that are going to be inside that I've slotted with Red Team, that's a part of Omega. So Leon is actually a Covenant Weapons Specialist, and so that's why I gave him a Plasma Repeater, and his secondary is also Sword. But yeah. And then Robert. Robert is the final of the named Omega members that are stuck with Red Team. He's more so just kind of a standard Spartan. I believe he uses August uses a railgun, Leon uses Covenant weapons, and I think he just uses standard things, if I remember correctly, but hence why I gave him just the assault rifle pistol standard loadout. And then we have Vanak. So Vanak is the first member that we're seeing here that, actually the second member that we're seeing here that's part of Silver Team. So he wears EOD, that you see in Reach, and that's what you see him in. His armor is blue, stuff like that, and that's how we see him in the Halo TV show. But for the sake of it and how things worked, I just stuck him in Mark IV armor, just because this is kind of more the standard Spartan look. There's a whole lot of customization, and Spartans went their own way, and even when they were in Mark IV and Mark V, some Spartans had different helmets and things like that. But for the sake of it, him not really being an important role in the Halo universe outside of a non-canon Halo TV show, I just stuck him in regular armor, and I didn't really go through the effort to try and honor whatever he wears. And then Riz is the final of the members of Silver Team. So this is the third and final member of Silver Team. Not much to say about her, like I said, just standard armor because of their non-canon background. So then we have Cal. Cal is a badass Spartan. You actually get to see her in the animated episode, The Babysitter. She's the Spartan that is assigned to assassinate the Prophet behind enemy lines and all that stuff, and she's the one that saves O'Brien by fighting the Brute twice, and she gets a gravity hammer to the side of the head, saving O'Brien, and ends up passing away because of that mission. But yeah, she's a badass Spartan. I wish there was more lore on her. And then we have Sheila. So Sheila is just another one of those Spartans that are named. Where Sheila is named is in Ghost of Onyx. There's a conversation between Halsey and Kurt, and Halsey is trying to identify this unknown Spartan 2, and she states that, of all of the Spartans that are listed MIA, I've kept track of the ones that are truly MIA. One of them being Kurt, one of them being Sheila, and then one of them being James, because James is presumed dead, but that's the kind of people she said. And so Sheila is mentioned, so I just put her in standard armor and all that stuff. We don't really know what happened to her. We just know that she was defending Halsey, but that's kind of the lore that we have on Sheila. And then we have Joseph. So Joseph is actually a Spartan 2 washout. He washed out of the Spartan 2 program and actually went to be a Marine. And you see this in the I don't remember the name of it, but it's in Halo Legends. Whenever Daisy is talked about, Joseph is the other Spartan on that ship, because it was multiple people that tried to escape and all this stuff, and Halsey brought the people back, and a couple of the other Spartan 2's candidates or whatever that escaped at the time committed suicide whenever they were caught, but Daisy didn't, because their whole thing was they were gonna go kill their Flash clones and then run away and be free and all this stuff. Well, they ended up getting caught. A majority of them killed themselves, but Daisy and Joseph didn't, and I don't think Joseph took the augmentations very well, so he went back down to the Marine Corps, and then Daisy and him are reunited in that animated episode that you see of her, and ends up getting killed when the Pelican blows up. We have Anton. So Anton is talked about in the book First Strike. He's another member of Red Team, and he's the best scout in the UNSC. I mean, he's talked about in the book First Strike, after the book The Flood, or that being directly related to the events of Halo 1 or Halo CE, whichever one you want to call it. John actually comes back to Reach to look for his Spartans, because he left so many of them on Reach before he ended up getting to Halo. So after the events of Halo and the Flood and blowing up, the ring and all that stuff, he comes back to Reach looking for a ship, the slip space drive, so he can get back to Earth, but as well as wanting to go down there and find the rest of his Spartans. And so Anton is one of the first Spartans that he comes across inside of a cave that were actually defending Admiral Whitcomb. So, and then Malcolm. Malcolm is another Spartan that's mentioned in the book First Strike. Fred uses his shoulder pauldron to replace a piece of his damaged armor whenever they get a break, and are setting up the defense of the complex for the orbital batteries. But yeah, so the lore with Malcolm is that he didn't overpressurize his suit before impact and hit a tree and kind of died on impact. And so they end up finding his body and, using some of taking his weapons, his grenades, ammo, stuff like that, and using what they can before leaving him behind. Then we have Grace. Now, Grace could be put on Red Team. She could be put on Red Team because of the book First Strike. Now, there's also other books where she's mentioned to be on Green Team. So I think just for the sake of leveling out the squads, I'm going to leave her on Green Team, even though she was found inside the cave with Anton and Lee. But she's pretty interesting. And some of the minor books that people don't read, some of the random ones that get put out that aren't really directly correlated to the timeline and things like that, she is talked about being like extremely proficient in Covenant technology. Like, she was the first one to figure it out, aside from Halsey and how the weapons worked. She could pick up any weapon and figure it out. Like, she was just very proficient in firearms and Covenant technology and all this other stuff. And so, but she ends up getting a brute shot to the chest, and that's how she ends up dying. And then they set off her reactor in her set of Mjolnir armor and then set off the timer for it to detonate. But yeah, that was the first interaction that Spartan 2s had with the brutes, the Drolhane. And it's also at the same point in the book that John is literally trying to wrestle a brute, and it's choking the life out of him. And he actually ends up getting away right before he blacks out. But yeah, so that's where Grace is introduced, kind of what she specializes in, and how she died. We have Lee. So Lee is the final member of that. Lee is the best. I'm actually going to not let him use blades. Let's go to your loadout. Empty. Yeah, so Lee was the best in martial arts. No one could ever beat him in martial arts. And also zero G combat. He was very, very proficient in 0G. So that's where he spent a majority of his missions and stuff like that were in 0G. But he ends up dying alongside Anton whenever the squad is split and they have to go outside and kind of repair something on the exterior of a UNSC cruiser as it's going through slip space during this whole weird slip space battle because of some crystals that they got a hold of. And so it was interfering with how slip space worked, and so Covenant followed them in there, started a whole battle in slip space, and things were warping and reappearing and stuff like that, and they actually end up getting vaporized while trying to repair that and defend it from some elites that were still stowed away on board. So that's where we see Anton and Lee die. Then we have Joshua. Joshua is a very proficient marksman. He's talked about being the sub leader of Red Team, things like that. He's actually got a pretty big role in the first part of First Strike when they first hit the ground, and ends up passing away whenever Fred, Kelly, and Joshua take 3 Banshees to go basically put a Havoc nuclear warhead inside of a Covenant cruiser by throwing it inside the gravity lift. In doing so, his Banshee gets hit by fire, and he basically dies inside the Banshee. Goes comm silent, and then the Banshee just flies off into the background, and they couldn't raise him or anything like that. So Joshua could have potentially survived it, but odds are, like, since he wasn't responding and things like that, not controlling the Banshee, like, he died inside the Banshee, and the Banshee just wasn't destroyed. And then we have Otto. So Otto is the character that I'm directly based off of. Otto is just, he was the heavy weapon specialist and stuff like that for Black Team. Used the grenades, rockets, stuff like that. There's a little bit more lore to all of them in Black Team and how that stuff works, but Black Team and Red Team actually get in a fight because of Victor, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so I went ahead and gave him a heavy weapon, and then I gave him a grenade launcher as his backup. And then this is primarily the squad that I'm going to start off with. I'm going to rotate squads to make sure I get everyone in, but this is the squad that I'm primarily going to start with because, you know, it's just, I've had this same name for the past 11 years, and so, you know, I have a special affinity for Black Team in my heart, so. But then we get on to Victor, and then I'll kind of go into why Red Team and Black Team got in a fight. So Victor was smitten for Margaret, right? So Victor is Black 4, Otto is Black 3, and Victor is Black 4. So Black 4 Victor is smitten for Black 1 Margaret, S053. So he likes her and all this other stuff, and is like becoming obsessed with her and all this other stuff, and they have like, you know, he's obsessed with Margaret. Well, Margaret and Otto kind of get together and are fooling around and stuff like that inside of a bathroom during training, and they get in trouble, right? And so Mendez finds out and just, you know, punishes like all the Spartans and stuff like that. Well, that makes Red Team mad. So Red Team in return finds Margaret alone and beats the shit out of her, right? So beats the shit out of Margaret, jumps her to where she loses her eye. I think she loses her left eye. Like, that's how bad Red Team beat her. And then the rest of Black Team retaliate, and then all that stuff before it was eventually squashed, and you know, Black Team was sent to Oni. And then we have Daisy. So Daisy, I don't remember what was specifically said. Like, I don't remember the episode, what it was called. But it's in Halo Legends to where her and sorry, it was not Joseph, it was Ralph. She's the one with Ralph. So Joseph is, I guess, just another named Spartan that had problems with augmentations. So I had that wrong. But yeah, so Daisy is what you see inside of that whole Halo Legends episode where she can't kill her Flash clone and all that stuff, and then she's fighting on the alien planet, or fighting on the planet trying to defend it, and then tries to get on the Pelican, and Ralph S103 passes away. And she passes away as well. And then you see some unnamed, a lot of people presume that it was John, but it's some unnamed Spartan that comes and retrieves her dog tags after she's found dead. And she inevitably gets listed as MIA. Now, Randall is actually a deserter of the Spartan 2 program. So he goes and gets the augmentations and all that stuff, and is a full functioning Spartan 2 for a while, and then just deserts. He deserts back to his home world where he creates a family and tries to live alongside that, and then he's also introduced in the live action series Nightfall. So where we are introduced to Locke, you know, building up the Halo 5 and all that stuff, we see Randall. So Randall is actually a Spartan 2, and he ends up sacrificing himself to save the other members from the Lekolo worms. So that's where we see Randall. That's kind of a little bit about his backstory, and that's how he dies. And we have Arthur. So Arthur is another member of Blue Team. Arthur doesn't have a whole lot of lore on him or anything like that, but he's the Spartan inside the Halo Legends episode called The Package, wherever he gets crushed in between the two Covenant carriers. And he screams, "I'm losing it." That's like the whole line is like, "I'm losing it," right before he gets crushed between the Covenant carriers. But yeah, so that's who Arthur is and how he died. I just gave him kind of a standard loadout. He doesn't really talk about any specializations or anything like that. And then we have one of the most badass female Spartans, in my opinion. Naomi is a bad bitch. Okay, so she is who we follow in the Kilo 5 trilogy of the books. So the Kilo 5 trilogy is Saren Osman, which is currently the chief sync of Oni, the leader of Oni during Halo 5 and all that stuff. That's all Saren Osman. Well, this is the events of Halo 5, or this is the events happening immediately after Halo 3. So the Kilo 5 trilogy is about, humanity trying to sabotage, or Oni trying to sabotage, Singhelios and disable the rest of the Covenant, or at least the people who are loyal to the elites by, creating poisoned food and, starting civil wars by providing arms to religious zealots and all this other stuff. So there's a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff that's going on that you don't see in the games, but you read about in the books, with Oni doing deals with, Thelvadam, which is the Arbiter, and all these other people, and then also Jul Mdama. Jul Mdama is the one she's primarily trying to fund and give all these weapons so that the civil war can start. And Jul Mdama is also the elite that you see in Halo 4, like Spartan Ops, that has Dr. Glassman. But yeah, so Naomi actually is very proficient in close quarters. She dropped into the I guess pilot bay of a Phantom and took on 3 brutes in hand-to-hand combat and whooped their ass, and then goes into the cargo bay of the Phantom and actually saves the rest of her ODST team, because she is the only Spartan in this team. She is paired with Malcolm Geffen, some guy named Menencia, and another person. But Saren Osman is a Spartan 2 washout that did not take well to the augmentations and went to Oni, and became next in line to Margaret Berengoski, and that's where we see Osman, and it talks about her relationship. She's also interesting because there's a lot of character development with her, and where she meets her father at the end of the book, and it talks about her emotions through all that, and her father finding out that she's alive and all these other things. But yeah, she's a very, very good Spartan to read up on. She's very, very good trilogy. She's got a lot of combat stuff in there, and there's a lot of character development for her Spartan specifically. And then we have Maria. So we don't know much about Maria, so I just gave her standard stuff. But Maria is the Spartan that tested John's armor. So it specifically says that she was testing Mark 6 before Halo 2. So Halo 1, the game Halo 1, Halo CE, and Halo 2, Chief has 2 different sets of armor. Okay, so in Halo 1, where you're fighting the Flood and all that stuff, he has Mark 5. Whenever you start Halo 2, he has Mark 6. You can tell by the helmet, the way it looks, like all these other things. Well, she's actually the Spartan 2 that was testing John's armor before he put it on, right before the events of the Battle of Earth. So, and then we have Vin. Your color is off. Go to your... But Vin is the other Spartan when I was talking about Isaac and having the premature detonation of the charges that he was throwing to seal off the doorway or throw him at, the Covenant or whatever it may be. Vin was standing next to him, and so they end up both dying in that. So, but let's go ahead and change your color. There we go. James. So James is pretty interesting. Okay, so he actually has a robotic arm, or at least from the forearm down he has a robotic arm, and that's because of a mission that happened on early on, with the Covenant War before the Battle of Earth and all this other stuff. Well, when they were getting ready for Operation Red Flag and all that stuff, obviously the Covenant attack reach. All these Spartans are together. John takes a 3-man team to a relay station to destroy some data to enact the Cole Protocol so that the Covenant can't get their hands on where Earth is and all that other stuff, all the navigation data. So he chooses 3 Spartans to lead blue team, or 3 Spartans to go in blue team, right? So he himself is going to lead it, and then he picks Linda, and then he picks James. So he could have taken Lee, which a lot of people are confused at why he didn't take Lee, meaning that, Lee literally specializes in zero-G combat and things like that. But he decided to take James. And the reason why is because James is the most dedicated of all the Spartans. Anything and everything that you ask him to do, he's going to do it to the best of his ability. That's kind of how it works. And so his death, they're making their way through 0G with T-packs on. And they actually get into an engagement with some elites and jackals or whatever. They're in 0G suits on their way to the station, and his T-pack actually gets shot by a needler, and then it detonates on one side and he's just propelled out into space. Never seen again. That's the last that he's mentioned. It's his oxygen, like whenever John gets back on the ship, back on the Pillar of Autumn, he tells him to scan for James and all that stuff, and they don't find anything, and his air only lasts like a couple of hours or so whenever it's in shutdown mode. So, but James is never seen again after that, and that's how he dies. Then we have Kichi. So Kichi doesn't have any lore in the books, but you can read about him on Halo Wiki, and if maybe I just overlooked something in the books, because there's like 33 books that I've read, Kichi's never mentioned that I've heard. But Kichi is a member of Green Team. He was sent on a planet. He was fighting the Covenant, and that's kind of the last we know of it, really. So I don't know. There's more lore to him. You can look it up on Halo Wiki if you're interested in all this stuff. But there is more lore to Kichi. But from what I understand, he was helping some Marines, fight the Covenant. He ended up hijacking a Wraith or something like that, and then just disappears. This is a random person that I haven't done yet. And so that's all of the Spartans. And then eventually, we're going to start filling teams and putting ODSTs in here, like ODSTs that are lore accurate and stuff. So these just haven't been customized yet. So they're on the back burner. But yeah. And so now we'll go back to squad management, and you'll kind of see, who's on what team. So black team consists of Margaret, Otto, Victor, and Roma. Margaret being black 1, Roma being black 2, black 3, black 4. You have gray team. You have Jai, Michael, and Adriana. Again, if you're interested in gray team, you can go read the books, the Cole Protocol and Halo Envoy. And then we have red team. So the red team that we see in the books is going to be Jerome, Douglas, and Alice, okay, primarily. And then the people that we see in Omega team that are directly attached to red team and are currently on the Spirit of Fire are going to be Robert, Leon, and August. Now there's a couple of other people that are in here. Oh, Grace is actually on red team. Did I just remove her? I did remove her. I'm going to go and change that later, but we'll go back to squad soldiers. So Isaac was assigned to red team and survived defending the generators and stuff like that with William and all of them, and they were the ones that were holding the fallback point. They were the ones that were assigned to hold the fallback point, so if the Spartan 2s needed to fall back, they would have a secure place to fall back to. So that's why Isaac survived, that's why William survived, and that's why Vin survived. And then during the Battle of the Generators, you have the people that I've assigned to Green Team, or some of them, but you have Anton, you have Lee, and you have Grace that are sent to go save Admiral Whitcomb during the fight for the generators and stuff like that. So those are the people that are primarily here. You have Joshua. Joshua is the one that dies in the Banshee. Isaac gets prematurely blown up because of the premature detonation of his stuff. Anton gets flash vaporized. Malcolm hits a tree and dies. August is still alive. Grace gets hit in the chest with a brute shot. Go down to blue team. So, John, obviously, Fred, Kelly, Linda, those are the ones that we see in the Halo games, right? Samuel is John's best friend and the first Spartan to die. William is the one that survives the fall of Reach and actually ends up dying, saving Kelly from a hunter and takes on 2 hunters in hand-to-hand combat. Solomon is the one that gets blown up by the Covenant trap that we see in the animated show, the package. Let's see what else. Arthur is the one that gets crushed in between the two Covenant carriers, saying that he's losing it. And then James was assigned to blue team whenever he was trying to go to the station, the relay station, and his T-Pack gets shot and he gets jetted into space. So we have Kurt, the leader of green team. We have Lee, which could go both ways. He could go on blue team if we wanted to put him on blue team. I might do that. Do we have anyone else in here that would go there? No. So we're actually going to take Lee off. And then she's where she needs to be. She just needs to be edited. Okay. Randall is the one that deserts and that we see in Halo Landfall. Daisy's the one that we see in whatever episode it is on Halo Legends that kills her Flash clone and dies trying to get to the evac Pelican. Vin is flash vaporized with Isaac. Maria's the one that tries on and tests out John's Mark 6 armor. Sheila at some point in time goes missing defending Halsey. What time period that is, it doesn't specify. That's all we know. Joseph is just a Spartan that failed augmentations or had difficulties with augmentations but became healthy enough to go into service later on in the war, I'm assuming. There's not much about him, or at least not much that I know off the top of my head. Naomi's the one that we see in the Kilo 5 trilogy. Cal is the one that we see in the Babysitter episode of Halo Legends. And then Kichi, like I said, defending some Marines on some unknown place and ends up going missing. Silver Team, Vanak, Riz, and Kai. These are the ones that are introduced in the new non-canon Halo TV show. Now let's go back up to blue team and assign soldiers, and we will put Lee there. And then I need to go to Lee and Grace. Lee, customize, body, secondary armor color, we're going to throw you in blue. We'll find her eventually. Okay, and then we will go here. No, I think I said I was going to leave Grace on green team. We'll just change it, whatever. It's not that big a deal. Alright, now that we've gotten all that, the run through on who we're running with, we're going to go ahead and start our series. So, we're researching plated armor. We're just testing things. Like, I haven't really gone through and started any covert operations or anything like that. So, that's kind of currently where we're still at. What do we want to do? We'll uncover the black market. I'm going to send 2 soldiers. We're going to send Ben and Isaac. Because they died together, why not? Confirm action. Now, why do you guys not have the right? That's weird. I could have sworn that I wouldn't have missed that. Maybe it's just gonna make me redo it.
I'll order my people to get underway immediately.